The Nevada desert stretched endlessly beneath the burning sun, its barren silence broken only by the rattling engine of a dusty SUV cutting through the emptiness. Daniel Brooks, 32, filmmaker and once a rising documentary star, drove with tired eyes and a tired soul. His marriage had collapsed, his production company went bankrupt, and the world he once admired now felt like a dark tunnel with no exit. 3 nights earlier, Daniel had received an email from an unknown address. Only 3 lines. "If you want your career back, come to Blackwater. Coordinates below." This is based on a true story. Attached to the message was a faded photograph of an abandoned town. Daniel ignored it at first until a second email arrived. Same photo, same text. But this time a chilling addition. "Everyone here vanished in one night. Find out why." Desperation and curiosity are dangerous twins. Daniel packed his camera equipment, filled his gas tank, and began the long drive toward the mysterious coordinates. As he moved deeper into the desert, radio signals dropped, phone towers disappeared, and soon even the GPS began to glitch. The road turned from asphalt to gravel, and from gravel to cracked dirt that seemed untouched for decades. Finally, the GPS screen froze on a single word: Blackwater. Population. The town wasn't marked on any modern map. Daniel stepped out of the SUV, camera in hand. The desert wind hissed past him, carrying dust and the faint smell of rust. Ahead lay a ghostly town trapped in time. 2 rows of wooden buildings stretched across a sunburned street. A saloon with shattered windows. A sheriff's office with a faded star symbol. A diner with its door hanging loose. Everything looked like people left suddenly and never came back. Daniel lifted his camera and started filming. "Day 1, Blackwater," he whispered into the mic. "Initial impressions. Place looks abandoned for 30, maybe 40 years. But the moment he stepped into the main street, he felt something. A weight. A presence. Like unseen eyes watching him from behind cracked windows. The first building he entered was the diner. The interior was dusty but eerily preserved. Plates still sat on tables. A glass of water remained half full, mold swirling inside like dark clouds. Chairs were overturned as if people ran out in a hurry. A calendar on the wall read July 15th. 1987. Daniel filmed everything, trying to remain calm. But something moved behind him, soft, like a whisper of cloth. He turned. Nobody there. He continued recording. Then, clear as day, a female whisper drifted through the air. "Don't stay after dark." Daniel's camera shook. He spun around again. No one. He stepped back outside. The sun had dipped lower than he expected. Next, he explored the sheriff's office. A thick layer of dust covered the desks. Papers lay scattered on the floor. Arrest warrants, incident reports, and one burnt page that read, "Mine investigation closed. Keep civilians out." Behind the desk, Daniel found something strange. A sheriff's badge cracked straight through the middle. And beneath it, a Polaroid photo. He wiped the dust. The picture showed Blackwater's main street, but there were people in it, smiling, going about their normal day. The printed date at the bottom said 1987, but their faces, Daniel looked closer. Their eyes were white, completely white. He felt a chill crawl up his spine. Leaving the sheriff's office, Daniel continued his exploration and reached a small motel on the edge of town. The sign read, "Blackwater Inn, vacancy." Inside, the reception area was untouched. A guest book lay wide open, covered with dust. Daniel brushed it off and read the last entry. Room 7, checked in, July 14th, 1987, never checked out. He swallowed hard. Upstairs, footsteps echoed across the wooden floorboards. Daniel froze. Someone was here. He followed the sound to room 7. The door creaked open slowly, as if inviting him in. The room inside looked perfectly preserved. A suitcase lay open on the bed, clothes neatly folded, a woman's dress, lipstick on the table, perfume bottles arranged like someone would return any second. Then he noticed a Polaroid camera on the bedside table. Next to it, a single photograph placed face down. Daniel picked it up. His blood ran cold. It was a picture of him, standing at the entrance of room 7, camera in hand, same clothes, same position, but the printed date said July 15th, 1987. More than 30 years before he was even born. Daniel dropped the photograph. His heart thundered as suddenly, slam, slam, slam! Every door in the corridor shut simultaneously. A gust of cold air swept through the hall. Then came the whispers, multiple voices, overlapping, urgent, desperate. Leave. Run. It's almost dark. They're coming. Daniel grabbed his camera and sprinted down the stairs. His footsteps echoed unnaturally, as if the sound belonged to someone else. Outside, the sky was no longer orange. It had turned grey, dull, and lifeless. Blackwater wasn't just abandoned. It was waiting. Daniel ran to his SUV, started it. Nothing. The engine didn't even click. His phone? Dead. Battery drained instantly. The town seemed to inhale. The wind stopped. The silence deepened. The shadows lengthened. Daniel realized something horrifying. When the sun fully sets, Blackwater wakes up. He looked toward the mountains in the distance. A dark hole carved into the rock caught his eye. A mine entrance. A rusted sign read Blackwater Mines, restricted area. And for a brief moment, Daniel saw a human silhouette standing at the entrance. Watching him, his camera blinked red, recording. The silhouette turned slowly and vanished into the darkness. Daniel felt his breath freeze. The sun dipped lower. The world dimmed. And the truth became clear. Night would fall in Blackwater within minutes. And Daniel Brooks was not alone in this town, it slowly covering the land. But in Blackwater, night fell like a guillotine. The sun dropped behind the jagged mountains, and instantly the temperature plummeted. The air thickened. A white mist slithered along the ground like living fog. Daniel Brooks tried once more to start his SUV. Click, click. Silence. Dead. He slammed his fists on the wheel. Come on, don't do this now. His breath came out in cloudy puffs, too cold for a desert night. Something was wrong. Subtly, unnaturally wrong. Then he saw it. At the far end of the street, near the remains of the old saloon, a figure stood, perfectly still, facing him. Daniel froze. He lifted his camera. Zoomed in. A man. Tall, wearing an 80s-era sheriff's uniform. Hat tilted forward, chest badge cracked straight through the center. The same sheriff's badge Daniel saw in the office earlier. The man's skin looked pale, dry, almost cracked like sun-baked clay. His eyes were white, completely white, reflecting the streetlights like dull marbles. Daniel whispered to himself, "Sheriff Carter." As if the sheriff heard him from across town, the figure raised a trembling finger and pointed directly at Daniel's camera. Daniel stumbled out of the SUV and backed away slowly. He looked around. Shadows moved. Figures appeared. One, then two, then a dozen, men, women, children, standing on rooftops, behind windows, in doorways, all pale, all silent, all staring at him with empty white eyes. Daniel's heart pounded so loudly he swore they could hear it. He filmed instinctively, whispering into his mic, "Entities visible. Possibly hallucination, eyes white, no signs of breathing." But these weren't hallucinations. One figure stepped forward, a young boy holding a rusted bicycle. Another, a waitress with a tray still in hand. Another, an elderly woman wearing curlers as if she stepped out mid-morning routine in 1987. All frozen in time, all drained of life. Daniel whispered, trembling, "What happened to all of you?" A voice answered from behind him, "We stayed." Daniel spun around, almost dropping his camera. A girl stood in front of the motel, maybe 11 or 12 years old. Pale skin, long dark hair, a cracked teddy bear dangling from her hand. Her dress was stained with dust and something brownish, dried blood. Impossible to tell. Her eyes were white but not empty. There was pain in them. Daniel stepped back cautiously. I heard you earlier, in the diner. You told me to leave." She nodded slowly. "You shouldn't be here." Daniel swallowed. "What is this place? Why is everyone like this?" She looked toward the mines in the distance. "It started there," she whispered, "the day the earth opened." Before Daniel could ask more, the windows of the diner shattered violently, glass exploding outward. Figures emerged from the shadows behind the girl, dozens moving jerkily, unnaturally, as if pulled by invisible strings. The sheriff's voice boomed with a hollow, corpse-like echo. "Bring him to the mines." Daniel turned and ran. The pale townspeople moved unnaturally fast, feet barely touching the ground, heads twitching with broken movements. Daniel sprinted between buildings, ducking behind abandoned carts and broken fences. He slipped into the back door of the church, the only building with its lights still flickering. He slammed the door shut behind him. Inside, the air was warm. Candlelight flickered across old wooden pews. Dust swirled like dancing spirits. At the front of the church, the altar was covered with photographs, hundreds of them. He approached slowly, filming everything. Every photograph was of a Blackwater resident, families smiling, children playing, men holding up fish they'd caught in the nearby river, 4th of July parades, weddings. But in each photo, the eyes of every person were scratched out with a sharp object. Daniel's stomach tightened. Behind the altar lay an old diary with cracked leather binding. He opened it. The Blackwater Massacre, 1987. Inside were shaky, frantic entries. The miners found something deep underground. Not human, not stone, alive. They brought it up. That was the mistake. At night it moved. It watches without eyes. We are trapped. It won't let us leave. It takes our souls, but leaves our bodies. Daniel stepped back, horrified. Then he noticed something even worse. A fresh entry, written in wet ink. And now he is here. Daniel felt icy fingers crawl up his spine. Soft footsteps creaked behind him. He turned. The little girl stood at the entrance of the aisle, her teddy bear dragging on the floor. "You shouldn't have filmed us," she whispered again. "He knows you have the camera." "Who knows?" Daniel asked. Before she could answer, boom, the church windows exploded inward. Cold wind roared through. Candles died instantly. All the pale figures surrounded the building, pressing against the broken windows like prisoners desperate to get in. Daniel ran toward the back door. The sheriff's voice echoed through the church in a chilling command. "Take him to the mines! Let him see!" Daniel burst out into the night. His breath came out in icy clouds. The mist around the ground swirled with unnatural patterns, as if alive. The girl's voice whispered behind him, "Run! The mines will show you the truth, but the truth will destroy you." Daniel looked toward the Blackwater mines, a dark, gaping mouth carved into the mountain, a place that radiated dread. But he had nowhere else to go. The pale townspeople approached from every direction. He fled toward the desert. His legs burned, his lungs screamed. But he didn't mind. Swallowed Daniel like a living throat, damp, cold, echoing with distant metallic groans. His flashlight flickered as if something inside the darkness was draining its battery. The moment he stepped deeper, the temperature dropped to near freezing. His breath turned white. The walls sweated with dark moisture that didn't look like water. Daniel whispered into his camera, "Entering Blackwater Mine. Day 1, possible paranormal phenomenon. Documenting everything." But his voice shook. He wasn't documenting. He was trying to convince himself he wasn't terrified. Behind him, the pale townspeople stood at the mine entrance, staring silently as if guarding the only exit. None followed him inside. That scared him even more. Why were they afraid of going in? His flashlight beam shook as he moved deeper. Old rails for mining carts snaked along the ground. Broken helmets and rust-eaten tools lay scattered like the workers dropped them mid-run. Carvings covered the walls, scratches made by human hands. He brought the camera closer. "Don't touch it. Don't wake it. It knows we are not alone." Each warning carved deeper, sharper, more desperate than the last. Then a metallic clang echoed down the tunnel. Daniel froze. Another clang. Then a dragging sound. Something moved ahead in the darkness. He raised the flashlight and saw a mining cart slowly rolling toward him. No one pushed it. The cart stopped a few feet away. Something inside it twitched. Daniel hesitated, then stepped forward. Inside lay a miner's hard hat, with a skull still inside it, jaw open, as if the person died screaming. Suddenly the mine lights flickered on, old emergency bulbs one by one, glowing sick red. The tunnel behind Daniel illuminated, and he saw something horrifying. Shadow figures stood further inside the mine. Dozens, tall, thin, wrong. Not the pale residents. Something else. The shadows were shaped like humans, but stretched too tall, limbs impossibly long, fingers reaching down to their knees like black tendrils. Their heads twitched in unnatural jerks, sniffing the air like hunting animals. Daniel backed away slowly. One of the shadow creatures turned its head sharply toward him. It had no face, just a blank, smooth surface. Yet Daniel felt its gaze like a knife. He whispered, barely audible, "Oh God." The shadows began to crawl toward him, bodies contorting spider-like along the walls and ceiling. Daniel ran deeper into the mine. The ground vibrated, the air trembled. A low guttural rumble echoed through the stone, almost like breathing. The tunnel widened into a massive cavern lit by red emergency lamps. Old machinery rusted in place, conveyors, drills, crushers, everything abandoned. In the center of the cavern lay a large fissure in the earth, a deep crack like the wound of a giant creature. Thick black material pulsed inside the crack like veins. Daniel approached slowly, filming. Inside the fissure, something moved. A faint heartbeat echoed, thump, 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 as if something alive was buried under the ground, waiting to rise. Daniel zoomed his camera in. Then he saw it. Dozens, maybe hundreds of hands pressed against the inside of the fissure. Human hands, pushing, clawing, scratching, as if trapped beneath the rock. Daniel gasped. The trapped hands reacted, moving faster, frantically pressing against the surface. A whisper rose from the fissure, soft at first, then louder. "Join us! Join us! Join us!" Daniel stumbled back, horrified. Suddenly, the cavern lights flickered and the shadows poured into the room behind him like liquid darkness. The sheriff emerged from among them, pale, dead, and grotesquely stretched, his body disjointed. His voice reverberated with layered echoes. "This is where we found it." He pointed his broken finger at the fissure. "This is where it began." Daniel shook his head. What is it?" The sheriff stepped closer. "It isn't a what, it's a WHO." The fissure pulsed. A wet cracking noise echoed through the cavern. The hands began pushing harder. Skin peeled off, fingers bent the wrong way. Something was trying to crawl out. The little girl appeared beside Daniel, her pale eyes glimmering with desperation. "You have to stop filming," she said. "You're feeding it." Daniel didn't understand. "What? How?" "I'd seize through you," she whispered, voice trembling. "Through your camera, through every lens, every screen, every watcher. That's how it spreads. That's how it survives. It needs new eyes." Daniel looked down at his camera, its blinking red recording light flashing like a pulse. He felt sick. The creature inside the fissure banged against the rock. Boom! Boom! The ground shook violently. Daniel yelled over the rumble, "What happened to the town?" The girl's voice cracked. "We tried to destroy the mine, but it was too late. It took our souls, our minds, our bodies. We never left. We are trapped in 1987. A massive crack tore open the cavern floor. Smoke spewed upward. A monstrous hand, charred, huge, deformed, burst from the fissure. Daniel screamed and ran toward the exit tunnel. The sheriff and the dead townspeople moved to block him. "No one leaves," the sheriff thundered. The shadows lunged. The girl stepped between Daniel and the creatures. A blinding white flash erupted from her chest, a wave of light that momentarily disintegrated the shadows like ash. "Go!" she screamed. "I can't hold it for long." Daniel sprinted through the tunnel, lungs burning, rocks falling behind him. The mine roared like a living beast awakened. He could hear the monster rising behind him. He could hear the shadows chasing him. He could hear the sheriff's scream echoing, "He belongs to us!" Daniel burst out of the mine entrance and fell to the ground, gasping. But his relief vanished instantly. The entire town of Blackwater stood in a perfect semicircle outside the mine. Hundreds of pale residents, children, miners, sheriffs, waitresses, every dead soul, all staring at him, all waiting. The girl emerged last, her body now flickering, half real, half smoke. "You can't leave," she whispered sadly. "He marked you. You looked inside the fissure. Now you are part of the story." Daniel's eyes widened in terror. Behind him, the mine exploded with a monstrous roar. The thing had awakened. Daniel stood trapped between the dead townspeople and the horror rising from the earth. The nightmare was only beginning. The storm had cleared, leaving a metallic smell in the air. The main street of Hollow Creek was silent. Too silent, like the town was holding its breath. Ethan stood in the center of the road, the sheriff's badge in his hand glowing faintly under the weak morning light. Mara limped beside him, bruised, exhausted, but alive. "Ethan, if the mines are really what connects everything, then the final spirit, Jonas, must still be down there." He nodded. Jonas Hollow, the last surviving member of the founding family, the man who reportedly disappeared in 1982. "We end it today," Ethan said. "No more unfinished business, no more screams in this cursed town." They moved toward the old mining tunnel. The wooden beams were rotting, the entrance barely holding itself together. As they approached, a cold wave shot through the air. The temperature dropped instantly. Mara clutched Ethan's sleeve. "It's starting again." A voice echoed faintly from inside the mine. "Sheriff, you should never have come back." Ethan shivered. "Jonas?" No reply, only the hollow echo of dripping water. They stepped inside. The descent. The deeper they went, the louder the hallucinations became. Mara heard a young girl crying. Ethan heard his mother calling his name, just like she did the night she died. The mine seemed alive, breathing, whispering their deepest fears back at them. They reached a chamber lit by an eerie bluish glow. Old mining lanterns hung from the walls, flickering without any source of fuel. At the center stood a figure. Tall, thin, dust-covered clothing. A miner's helmet crushed into the skull. Jonas Hollow. except his face wasn't quite human anymore. Bone protruded through torn skin. His eyes burned a dull red like embers dying out. "You came back," Jonas whispered, "just like the others." He lifted a rusted pickaxe. The air trembled. Ethan raised his lantern. "Jonas, you were trapped in here. We're here to help you move on. You don't have to keep hurting people." Jonas tilted his head, confused at first, then amused. "Help?" His voice cracked like shattering glass. "They left me here to die, buried alive, a curse born from greed. And now, you want to free me?" Mara stepped forward. "The spirits above, the people who died, they're trapped too. If you end this, they will finally rest." Jonas shook violently. "I can't end it. I am the curse." He slammed the pickaxe down, splitting the ground. A roar surged through the mine and the walls began shaking. The collapsed rocks started falling from the ceiling. Ethan grabbed Mara's hand and dragged her behind a support beam. Dust filled the air. Jonas moved like a shadow, appearing and disappearing between flashes of blue light. Ethan felt claws scrape his arm. He stumbled back, lantern shattering. Darkness swallowed them. "Mara!" he shouted. A hand grabbed his shoulder. "I'm here!" she cried. But Jonas wasn't far. His glowing eyes floated in the darkness like two dying stars. "Your mother begged for you," Jonas hissed in Ethan's ear. "She screamed your name before the fire took her." Ethan froze. "No, you weren't there." But Jonas's form shifted, transforming into Ethan's mother, charred, burned, crying. My boy, why didn't you save me?" "Stop!" Ethan dropped to his knees, shaking. "It's not real." Mara kicked a loose rock at Jonas, breaking the illusion. The apparition twisted back into its horrific original shape. "Ethan, listen to me," she shouted. "He feeds on guilt. Your guilt is keeping him strong." Ethan clenched his fists. "Then I end this now." The liberation. They noticed something glowing behind Jonas, a vein of bluish crystals embedded in the mine wall, the same material found in all ghost sightings, the origin of the curse. "If we destroy that," Mara said, pointing, "we break the connection." Ethan nodded. "Cover me." As Jonas lunged again, Mara grabbed a loose support beam and blocked the strike. Sparks flew. Jonas roared and lifted Mara off the ground. She struggled for breath. Ethan ran toward the glowing crystals. He picked up the broken lantern, pulling out the still-burning wick. He shoved it into the crystal vein. A sharp, deafening sound echoed, like 1,000 screams escaping at once. Jonas dropped Mara, clutching his head in agony. "No, you don't know what you're doing!" The crystals began bursting one by one, illuminating the chamber with blinding white light. Every ghost, every trapped soul seemed to manifest for a split second around them. Miners, children, the mayor's family, the lost travelers, all glowing silhouettes. They whispered in unison, "Thank you." The blast threw Ethan and Mara back. The end of the curse. Ethan woke up outside the mine, covered in dust. The sun was rising. Birds were chirping for the first time in years. Mara crawled out beside him. We did it." The mine entrance had collapsed completely, sealing the darkness forever. Ethan stared at the fallen rocks. "Jonas? He's gone," Mara said gently. "And so are the others." They walked back to town. And that's when they saw it. Hollow Creek wasn't abandoned anymore. Houses no longer looked decayed. Curtains fluttered in windows. The church bells swung. The town seemed alive, but not inhabited. It was as though the town had reset to the moment before the curse hit, reborn for no one to live in. Mara whispered, "Maybe this is their way of saying goodbye." Ethan placed the old sheriff badge on a porch railing, then let it rest. As they turned to leave, a cold breeze passed by, but it wasn't threatening. It felt like a gentle hand patting Ethan on the back. A soft whisper echoed, "You kept your promise, Sheriff. Thank you." Ethan didn't look back. The story of Hollow Creek would remain in the shadows, known only to those who survived. He and Mara walked toward the rising sun, toward a life free from ghosts. But at the edge of the town, Mara stopped and stared. Inside an abandoned shop window, a single lantern flickered for a moment, then died. "If you